Here's a list of the things we're going to need to assemble the FTEC1. We're going to need clear silicone lubricant. Then we're going to need some white lithium grease, some clear silicone sealant, and a couple of Phillips head screwdrivers, a file, and Teflon tape, and a couple toothpicks, and an Allen key, which is included in the kit. We're going to start with the plunger head and plunger rod. So first we're going to grab the clear silicone sealant, put it on a toothpick, and we're going to smear it on the top face of the plunger rod, the face with the little screw hole in it. Smear a little layer of that on there. And then put the plunger rod onto the plunger head, and we're going to use the plunger head screw, which is the silver screw, and we're going to screw that guy down, securing the two. Alright, there's your plunger head, plunger rod assembly done. We're going to keep that to the side. Next we're going to assemble the breech block. So, from the bag with all the O-rings and stuff in it, grab the silicone adhesive plunger head buffer pad. I'm going to peel the backing off of it. Then we're going to stick it onto the plunger head coupler right there. The plunger tube coupler, I should say. Make sure it's secure. Alright, next we're going to grab the two larger red O-rings. These are the plunger tube O-rings. And we're going to put these on around the plunger tube coupling here. And it might be hard to get them in there, so you might want to use a toothpick to push them down. Alright, looks like they're in. It should look a little something like this. Alright, next we're going to put in the barrel O-rings. Now putting these in is a little bit tricky. There's two grooves on the inside of the breech block here where the barrel's going to connect into, and you're going to have to wiggle these little O-rings into there, into the grooves. You're probably going to have to use a screwdriver or like some stick-like tool to really get those guys in there. It might take some doing. It's kind of finicky. There's one. Alright, there's the second one, both in. And that is your breech block finished. Alright, next we're going to install the plunger tube onto the breech block. So grab your plunger tube, and we're going to need a couple 8mm screws, just two of them. So we're going to place the plunger tube onto the breech block, and while you're pushing, give it a small amount of twist. That'll help with seating the O-rings properly. And then grab your 8mm screws. We're going to screw those into these two holes here. What these are going to do is they're going to secure the plunger tube onto the breech block so that it won't come apart. There we go. So now the plunger tube should be firmly secured in place. Should not be going anywhere. Now we're going to grab the mag well. We're going to attach the mag well onto the breech block using the 10mm screws. We're going to need 4 of those to secure the mag well onto the breech block. Alright, there we go. Grab the mag detent and the mag detent cover. Now before we start, we're going to have to file one of the faces of the mag detent smooth. This is a critical step. If you do this, or if you forget to do this, your mag release isn't going to work. It's going to seize up. So you want to file the angled face smooth, which is like the part that's ramp shaped. You want to file it till you can't feel any of the printed layer lines. That should be good enough. Maybe a little bit more. Grab the bag of springs. I'm going to grab the lighter spring, which is used for the mag detent. Then before you install the mag detent, we want to lube that guy up a little bit. So grab some of your lubricant. Just put a bit on there. Okay, now put the mag detent retainer above that. And we're going to secure that using another 10mm screw. That's going to go through the back here. Grab your mag release and put it into the groove through the mag detent retainer, and check that when you push that in, it pushes the mag detent in and out. Alright, next we're going to build the trigger. So grab the trigger and grab the 2 trigger ramps. We're going to use 4 10mm screws here. Alright, there's the trigger assembly. Alright, now we're going to assemble the grip. So grab your mag release. guide that through the grip. And we're going to use a 10mm screw to secure that in. Now make sure the screw is deep enough that it's not going to interfere with your hand when you're holding the grip, but you want it loose enough to where it'll actuate back and forth freely. So there you go. Grab your trigger, put it in the groove, and then guide the grip down. And at this point you want to make sure that the mag detent works. So there, it's working. Now we're going to secure the grip to the rest of the assembly using 6 10mm screws along the base plate. Alright, everything looks good. Now we're going to put in the trigger springs. You have 2 of them. Again, these are the lighter springs in the bag. And we're going to compress them and squish them right into there, right behind the trigger yoke. There's one in, and then put one in the other side. There we go. Okay, now we're going to assemble the plunger catch. So grab the plunger catch main body and the plunger catch cover, and then the catch plate itself. We're going to apply some lubricant onto the catch plate. You want to apply the lubricant onto the 2 bottom rails of the catch plate. There we go. And then the rail side down, and that goes into the plunger catch main body right there. Now you're going to grab the last of the light springs. And then put that into the plunger catch. Seat it in. Like that. And then now we're going to screw the cover down. And we're going to be using 4 10mm screws for this one. Alright, now we're going to assemble the pusher bolt. So grab your pusher bolt and grab the small black Quattro O-ring. I'm going to put that over the pusher bolt and make sure it sits nice and flat, and test fit it into the breech block. If the fit's too loose, take it off. Grab some Teflon tape. This is a pretty standard. Just do like 1 or 2 loops of Teflon tape, and then put the O-ring back on. Okay, that looks good. And then it helps to put a small amount, you don't want too much on there, just a little bit of lubricant. That looks good. Push it in. Alright, that feels pretty good. Now we're going to grab the aluminum breech bars, and to secure that onto the pusher we're going to need 4 10mm screws again. And those just screw into the back. There we go, fit it into the breech block and make sure it actuates back and forth freely. And close it up. Now we're going to attach the plunger catch onto the breech bars. Make sure your plunger catch functions. So there you go, we tested it with the plunger. Everything looks good. You're going to grab the large plunger Quattro O-ring, put that around there. Again, same as before, if you need to, you can put the Teflon tape around it. If the seal seems fine, then you don't have to do that. We're going to be using white lithium grease for the plunger tube. You don't really want to use the silicone grease. Well, you can if you want to, but I find white lithium grease to be far better, at least for the plunger tube. Fit that guy in there. It's pretty good, but it looks to be a little loose. You can check the seal by closing the pusher bolt, putting your finger over where the barrel will go, checking the seal. It's holding an alright air seal, but it should be better. So you're going to pull it back out, we're going to put some Teflon tape on it, and try it again. Alright, we're going to use the toothpick to push in the little sides of it. And there we go. That looks pretty good. Alright, now we're going to attach the plunger catch, but before we start, we want to make sure that the plunger rod is oriented correctly. Make sure the cutout of the plunger rod is facing upwards. And to attach this, we're going to use, again, 4 10mm screws. So put your spring on, get your catch mechanism, put it over the plunger rod, and you're going to have to apply some pressure to get it into place. Make sure the holes line up, and screw in those screws. Alright, now we're going to assemble the deployable stock mechanism. So grab your stock block, the stock catch, and the stock lever. And then you want to get your 2 remaining springs, and you want to open the bag with all the M3 hardware in there. So grab one of the M3 screws, a nylock nut, and a M3 washer. They're really small, so they might be hard to see. Grab one of those, and then there's the Allen key that's also in the bag. Get the 2 remaining springs, they should be the heavier springs, and grab the nylock nut, put him into the stock catch. There's a little hole for it to fit into. You can use the M3 screw to pull it into there. Alright, now you're going to grab the 2 springs, put them on the spring posts inside the stock block. Might take a couple tries to get them on there. Once those are in, put the stock catch right above it. There we go. Now what you want to do is you want to grab your M3 washer and put it through the M3 screw. Like so. And then thread that through the stock lever, through the hole, and screw that into the stock plate, the stock catch. And you're probably going to want to screw it down all the way first to get the nylock nut to seat fully into the stock catch plate. So screw it down fully first until it won't screw anymore, and then start backing out. And you want to back out to the point where the stock catch is flush with the top of the stock block. So there you go, it's flush. Now you want to test it. When you pull on the lever, it should move the little catch arms back and forth. There we go. Now grab the rear end of the blaster shell, fit it in there. Now you can look through where the stock arms go into. You can see that it's actuating up and down. And what you want to do is you want to tighten the M3 screw down until you can see that when you have the stock lever pushed down, they're completely clear of where the stock bar is going through the hole. That way your stock will deploy properly. Now we're going to secure this to the rear blaster shell using 4 12mm screws. These are the longest screws. Put them in all 4 holes and screw them in. There we go. Check that everything's working. Looks like I gotta tighten this one a little bit. It's not fully clearing through the holes. Alright, now we're gonna assemble the actual stock portion. Grab your 2 stock bars. And these are gonna be secured with 4 10mm screws. Seat those into the stock, like so, and then screw in 2 on each side. There we go. Now test fit. Pull the lever back. There we go. Locks up nice. Adjust the lever. Perfect. Now we're going to attach all the Picatinny rails onto the blaster shell. And all of the Picatinny rails are going to be using the same screws. They're going to be the 6mm screws, the shortest ones. So we're going to first start with the side rails. Alright, now it's time to do the top rails. We're going to start with the rear top rail, which is the shortest one of the 3 rail sections left. Again, this uses the same 6mm screws. Alright, now the front rail, which is the medium-sized rail section for the top. Alright, now we attach the final section of the Picatinny rail. Same process. We're only going to attach half of it though, because we still need the shell to separate. Alright, now we're going to put the shell around the whole blaster mechanism. So we start with the front, slide the front over the front of the mechanism, like this. Make sure it's pressed down all the way in. And then we're going to secure that to the mechanism using the 10mm screws. Alright, now we're gonna focus on the pump grip here, or the pump sled. You gotta get your pump sled bushings. You should have 2 of them. And you gotta pay attention to these bushings. There's 2 holes on each one, but one hole is larger than the other. The larger hole of the pump sled bushing is going to go towards the front of the blaster. The smaller hole is going to go towards the rear. This is critical that you get this part right. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to use 2 12mm screws and 2 6mm screws. So there's the 2 12mm, and there's the 2 6mm. We're gonna place the pump sled bushing in the slot here, on top of the actual plunger catch mechanism. And again, the wider hole on the pump sled bushing goes towards the front of the blaster. That applies for both sides. Right, holding them in place, now slide the pump sled over the 2. And make sure the holes in the pump sled are aligned with the holes in the pump sled bushing. And now what you're going to do is you're going to put a 12mm screw through the front hole on the pump sled, which will pass through the pump sled bushing and screw into the actual catch mechanism. And on the back one, we're going to use the 6mm screw, which is going to grab into the pump sled bushing. So front one uses 12mm, back one uses 6mm. Now the bottom of the pump sled requires 3 10mm screws to be driven in. There we go. Test that the pump works. Looks good. And now there's one more 10mm screw that goes through the trigger guard into the front blaster shell. That's right there. Okay, now attach the rear of the blaster shell. Secure that using 6 10mm screws, 3 on both sides. Alright, now grab 2 6mm screws, and we're going to fully screw down the midsection of the top rail. Alright, now we're going to put in the brass barrel. Now the brass barrel has an inner and outer barrel. You want the side where it's just the outer barrel as the muzzle end. That way you gain like 10% more in velocity. It functions with, you can put it in either way. If you're having feeding issues, put it in the other way and it'll act as a chamber. But otherwise put it in this way. Now we're going to put a O-ring on the muzzle piece. The O-ring is the same as the one for the barrel breech block. You have a bunch of those O-rings as spares. Twist that on there and your blaster is completed. Alright, now before you can actually use your blaster, when you first build it, it's going to be super hard to prime. It's going to seize up a lot, so you're going to have to lubricate it. So here's 3 key points that we have to lubricate. So get your silicone grease. I like to use this over white lithium because it's clear, so it doesn't look bad. So prime the blaster back. You're going to struggle with it a bit because it's not smooth yet. And apply some silicone grease onto the top of the breech bar with the blaster primed back. So here you can see me applying it onto the top of the bars. Now push it forward and back. That'll get the silicone grease worked up in there. Nice and spread around. Okay, next you're gonna have to put some silicone lubricant on to the areas where the pump sled bushings glide on. So in that slot, apply it onto all the edges there. And put it on pretty liberally. There we go. And then apply it onto both sides. You can see there's some already on here. I just forgot to record when I initially put it on. Okay, and then the final spot here is at the bottom. You want to go through the bottom slot, and you want to get the lubricant on the top side of the rails down there. That's where the pump catch tends to rub a bit. So put that on there. And once you do this, your blaster should be pretty smooth, even if it's freshly built. Now it takes like 100 rounds or so to fully break in the blaster, and then it'll be super smooth. You probably wouldn't even need to lubricate it at that point. This is just when you freshly build a blaster, you're gonna have to lubricate these points. It's especially important in the beginning. But once you start to use it, it'll take care of itself. It won't have to you won't have to lube it up all the time. So there you go. There is the blaster completed. Now you can wipe off the excess after you spread it around. So here you go. We're wiping off whatever bits came out of the areas that need to be lubricated. And that'll keep it running real smooth.